Can you hear me okay? Yes. Yeah, no, it's back there already. I couldn't hear. So anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for taking time from their busy schedule to be here to join us in this conversation. I really appreciate that. So, now everyone has heard of Silent Spring. Yes, are we ready? Okay. So, everyone has heard of Silent Spring. Silent Spring was written by Rachel Carson, naturalist, scientist, who connected the decline in birdsong with the use of pesticide and brought it to public attention. Now, the industry was not happy about that at all, and the response was a prolonged organized attack against her and made her life really miserable. On the other hand, the public also organized. So she testified in front of Congress. DDT was banned as a result, and an environmental movement was initiated. She's honored in a U.S. postal stamp, and she continues to inspire people worldwide. My question is then, why, nearly half a century later, she wrote her book that came out in 1962, why is it half a century later, things aren't better at all? In fact, pictures like this no longer shock us. If you look at the period, like the book came out in 1962, and you look at the period of 1945 to 1989, pesticide use in the U.S. actually increased tenfold. And what does that really mean? Well, last year, just the U.S. alone, we used 1.2 billion pounds of pesticide. Now, most of us don't have a relationship with the number of billion. So what does, if 1.2 billion were seconds, that would amount to 38 years. In other words, you would just sit and count up to 1.2 billion. If you count one number, 1 second, it would take you 38 years to do so. No, 1.2 billion per year, yeah, in 2009. And as a world, we use 5 billion pounds of pesticide. So the U.S. uses a quarter of the world's pesticide use. And once again, if you were going to count up that number, it would take you 158.5 years. It would take you generations to get there. Now, this is really interesting to me. So this is California pesticide regulation. And what comes to my mind, if you're supposed to regulate, you would not be using toxins, right? To me, that's what regulation means. But this is actually their own chart. It actually tells you what kind of toxins we're using as pesticides. And if you might notice that here, we use over 20 million pounds of pesticides that cause cancer every year. And speaking of Rachel Carson and DDT, DDT was banned. Here's a group of chemicals that replace DDT, and they mess with your brain, your neurotoxins. So, the Migratory Bird Center estimate that annually 672 million birds are exposed, and a conservative estimation is 67 million birds die every year. Who cares about the birds anyways? So, why should it concern you? Well, let's see what's happening to you. So this is actually a 2009 report from the Department of Health, the Institute of Health. And this is a 4th annual report, and they're starting to track sort of chemicals in the human system. So they found widespread exposure to industrial chemicals. And so a group of chemicals, PFOA, they are actually chemicals that are used in making pans non-stick. They're found in those of the participants of the National Health and Nutritional Examination Survey. Over 90% got BPA in them. Nearly everyone has flame retardant in them. All 3 are endocrine disruptors. What that means is it messes with your hormones. And and all three has been linked to cancer. Speaking of cancer, so National Institute of Health has the National Cancer Institute, and they formed a panel that they wrote a report to the president and was submitted 2010 in April, and was led by a professor of medicine at Harvard University. They report in 2009, 1.5 million people were diagnosed with cancer, more than 500,000 died, and with a growing body of evidence linking environmental exposure to cancer. It continued to say, and actually predicted, that 41% of the population of Americans will be diagnosed with cancer sometime in their lives. So how many of us are here? So it's like this side of the room. That many people will be diagnosed with cancer sometime in their life, and 21% will die. And they continue to report that more than 80,000 man-made chemicals in the market. So exposure to potentially dangerous chemicals, carcinogens is widespread. And the true burden of environmentally induced cancer has been grossly underestimated. So just to make it a little real for you, everything in this picture has flame retardant in it. And everything in this picture has BPA, so if you drink anything out of something like this or eat something out of those cans, you're also eating BPA, which is an endocrine disruptor and has been linked to cancer. And this is the first group, PFOA, illegal chemicals. So, what do you think? Maybe it has something to do with the lifestyles, just maybe. Now, so if we're looking at our environmental issues as these individual blisters of the chickenpox patient, then you have not looked at the disease. So if we look at these environmental issues separately and have these groups against sort of working towards climate change or deforestation, you are not looking at the disease. The disease is lifestyle. And in my opinion, the reason the environmental movement has not been successful in slowing environmental degradation is because we are not looking at the disease. You might make some headway treating a blister, but you are not dealing with what you have to look at. So every time I bring this up, people say, so what are you talking about, Ling? We're going to go back to the cave? Is that what you're saying? Well, maybe it all depends. If we learn something. If we do, we graduate. So what is it that makes our lifestyle possible in the first place? Well, science and technology, yes? So when we think about science technology, what comes to our minds? Like chemicals, like the pesticides, machines that do things for us, that take us places, that take us beyond our room and into the world, that makes our life the way it is. And that's what we think about. What we don't think about is what makes it possible for us to make those machines. What makes it possible is a better understanding of nature. But we don't think about that. We only think about the things that we get from this in science and technology. And really is a better understanding of nature that we don't deal with at all. Rachel Carson tragically died at age 56 of cancer. Said, but man is a part of nature, and his war against nature is inevitably a war against himself. Another way to look at it is that we are a part of nature. So maybe knowing more about nature can inform us about ourselves. So let's take a look at nature. So here are two cultural icons who were both riding on a beam of light. This was actually one of Einstein's dreams when he was 16 years old. He dreamed that he was riding on a beam of light, and there's another beam of light going along his side. He wasn't dreaming of Lone Ranger, but anyways, so all of us know that speed of light is constant, yes? Right? You have all heard that, yeah? You accept that, yes? Now think about driving, say, at the speed of light, hopefully not. Say you're driving 60 miles per hour, and this guy is also driving 60 miles per hour. Well, you would look like you're not going in relationship to each other anywhere, yeah? It looks like you're both standing still, yes? Well, that's not what happened in his dream. See, they're both traveling at the speed of light, but in Einstein's dream, this other beam of light is traveling away from him at the speed of light. Huh? What? No, but he didn't do that. He said, huh? What? He said, no, you know, I'm just going to accept that as a possibility. And I'm going to figure out how I can show this. Now, he sucked at math. So he sort of realized that he could show this with mathematics. So he asked for help. And he got really good at mathematics. And he was able to show this. And so that's special relativity. And the mind bender about the conclusions of special relativity about nature is that time and space are not fixed. So the reason you can go have a beam of light traveling at the speed of light, another beam of light traveling at the speed of light next to you, going at the speed of light is because time and space are not fixed. It actually changes with your velocity. And then space is work, light is spent. And all these have been shown to be true with empirical data. Now you say, like, what does that have to do with me? Because special relativity really describes sort of what happens with large, planetary movements. Well, so how does that affect me? Well, you won't have GPS accuracy without relativity adjustments. They have to make adjustments how time is actually flowing at a different speed at Earth's surface and up in space. And also with his work, our understanding of nature really sort of got forward a lot, and along with that is a lot of other technological inventions that has profoundly changed our experience as human species in this world. It profoundly changed the way we live and our relationship to nature. Now, at the dawn of Industrial Revolution, people like Karl Marx were really sort of excited. Said, wow, imagine a world where the machines would do our work. We'll spend most of our time dancing, writing poetry, painting. We all know that didn't happen. So instead, what seems to happen is the more machines, the more gadgets we have less leisure time. With less leisure time, we get more stressed. We get more stressed, we get more sick, and we feel alienated. And we need more gadgets and machines. And soon, time has completely disappeared. Free time is declared extinct by me right now. So we also know from neuroscience that the left brain sort of creates a linear time. So our past, present, and future is an experience and construct of our left brain. If you could experience the world through your right brain, everything is at the moment. And there's lots of actually experiments that shows that fear slows people's experience of time. So some of you have that experience, like when you're really focused, like time seems to really move slowly. So the idea is when you're really afraid, you can really focus, and time feels like it goes really, really slow. So, velocity dilates time, Einstein told us, and fear slows experience of time. Really, where is fixed independent unit of time? It does not exist. So, if that is the case, we talk about paradigm shift all the time in environmental movement. Oh, paradigm shift. What does it really mean? Well, here we go. One of the things that we can shift is our relationship with time. We can shift from, I don't have time, or I control my time. Instead of focusing on past and future, we can focus on the now. We can free ourselves from this rat race and arrive in contentment